This episode is brought to you by Playapod, the best cross-platform podcast app for iOS and Android. Just visit playapod.com and download it for free.
Hey, thanks so much for downloading the episode today. On the show, we talk about high school prom, shopping, dates, all the stuff that goes with it. How much has changed since we were in high school? Probably not as much as we thought. We also talk about some truly heinous dating stories that we both have experienced. Really bad. We also have a new submission for our H-Uglee and Awkward Moments of the week that have something to do with dating as well. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy the show.
It's another uncensored look at the world around you from sisters who will say just about anything to anyone at any time. It's the Uggs. Jamie.
Super fun. Had by all.
Paula.
Oh, Venus.
Uncensored as always, it's time for the ugly truth.
Welcome to the Ugly Truth. It is episode 258. Welcome. The gang's all here. I'm Jamie with my sister Paula. This is the Ugly Truth. Thank you so much for downloading the episode and sharing us with your friends. We really appreciate the support. Right?
Of course we do.
So it is March. I still hate March. Time change is upon us. I hate it so bad. I just hate it. And we went through the rant last month, so we won't talk about it again. But along with March being a struggle, we're rounding the end of the school year. I mean, we're getting pretty close. They at least at my daughter's school, she's a junior, their last day of school is like the 31st of May. Like, barely into the month of June. I think they might be done the last week of June, if I'm not certain. It used to not be like that. It used to be mid-June. I mean, really, like the 12th or 15th of June is when they end, but they keep pushing it closer and closer to May, and I kind of hate it.
We'll be done before the Friday before Memorial Day.
Exactly. So with that, though, is they haven't changed when they do the proms. So junior prom is April 14th. Senior ball is like May 5th or something, like really close together. Senior ball is not on campus. Junior prom is on campus, is per the usual in this area. So with that, though, in this day and age, because of all the retail places that are kind of closing up shop, finding a dress for a prom is a serious endeavor. It is not easy. You can't just go to Macy's and peruse the formals and pick one out and walk out the door.
Really?
No, it's
When did
not.
that change?
I don't know when it exactly changed, but like we talked about last week, online shopping is really the best way to garner any kind of selection, any kind of options. There really aren't any options. And you can go to Nordstrom Rack or Nordstrom and look, but what if you don't have a Nordstrom or a mall that has a Windsor, which has formals? I mean, there's just not a whole lot of options. And the thing is that they may have options, but if they sell out, you're screwed. And the other thing is nobody wants to wear the same dress as anybody else. So with that being said, Malia and I were looking online for prom dresses, and we just weren't having any luck. There was nothing that she liked. I couldn't find anything either. And when you buy a formal online, you have no idea what you're getting if it's not a reputable dealer, or you just don't even know. There are a couple, and I told Malia this because she was getting pretty frustrated. I said, bridal stores have formals, not just for bridesmaids dresses, but they sell formal wear. That's where a lot of people can go to find prom dresses. So there is a cute little individually owned and operated store. And she sells wedding dresses, but she also sells formal wear. And the reviews were really good. So we went in there. It took us over an hour to get a dressing room because every girl from every high school in our area was there looking for her formal. So we had obviously found the place that everybody goes, just happened to find it. The whole problem is that girls have to find their dress before they even get a date, because guys in this day and age do not ask with enough time for a girl to order her dress. We ordered Malia's dress last weekend. It's going to be here in 3 weeks.
Wow.
That's how it is. It's just like ordering a wedding dress. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't other options. You know, you can go the pretty and pink route. You can go to the thrift store and find something like Ladybird. I mean, obviously there are other options, but the majority of girls want to get a formal dress that no one else is going to have. So there you go. There were 50 girls waiting to try on dresses that nobody else is trying on, and everybody's judging each other when they come out of the dressing room because everybody's giving their opinion. But it's quite an endeavor. And what sucks is it creates a little anxiety because Malia's got like 4 or 5 friends. Only one has a date. The other ones don't. Because now, apparently, if you don't have a boyfriend, prom is not necessarily a guaranteed event that you will go with a date. Now, you see Malia. I wouldn't consider her an uggo.
No, not at
beautiful.
all.
She's really pretty. And not just because I love her. I mean, if you look at her, she's a cutie pie. I mean, if a girl like Malia was in my high school, there would be no doubt that girl has a date for anything, any dance, any prom. She'd be asked to senior ball as a junior. I mean, there would be no problems. But she can't seem to secure a date for prom. And it's driving me insane because I can't understand it. And I said, well, do you even have any prospects? And she's like, yeah, there's a couple, but, a lot of them are saying they're not even going to prom. I said, boys are saying they're not going to go to junior prom? Like, what? I couldn't understand it. And I said, well, when Tyler was a senior, he didn't go to junior prom. But when he was a senior, it took a lot of effort to convince him to go to senior ball. Like, he really didn't want to do it. And he had a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. So I guess I kind of understand. The other thing is boys are going to wait till the last minute like they always do. They're going to wait and, and I don't know if they're weighing their options or if they just don't want to think about it. I mean, I can't get into the mind of a boy, but if you don't have a girlfriend, this isn't something you're thinking about into the last minute, right? I mean, I guess. I'm not sure.
It's hard to think. I mean, it's junior prom, so they're still only 16.
Yeah,
it's they're still kind of young, and
they all do that. They're all texting and Snapchatting now. They don't actually speak to each other and look each other in the face.
Are you kidding me?
No, that's the reality now. That's how they communicate. I mean, Malia's phone looks like the New York Stock Exchange. It is constantly she's being inundated with. I go, Malia, your phone blows up 24 hours a day, and you're telling me there's not one guy who's even considered asking you to junior prom? She's like, no. And I'm like, I don't get it. But then I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. We're going through the issue of the fact that we have to order a dress. So we have to do this way out in advance. Boys have to rent a tux, and they can do that in a day and get it the next day. It's not the same.
There will be some moms getting involved soon.
That's what I was
that
thinking too.
Are going to be like, you are going to this dance. You need to ask a girl or pick a girl because I'm not going to let you miss out on your junior prom.
Right.
I think that's going to start happening within the next week, because at least 2 weeks in advance.
Yes, I would hope within the next week or two there will be some. Okay, and so there's this one boy who she really wouldn't mind going to junior prom with. And he has said to her, he told her he's not going to junior prom. He thinks it's dumb. He doesn't want to go. And I said, okay. And so she's talking to him about all these other options that she has, that she's thinking about. And he goes, no, you can't go with him or him. And he goes, look, if you can't get anybody, I will take you. And I was like, what? Was that his way of asking? Like, what is that? I don't understand.
So he's saying,
not only does he doesn't like any of her options, none of them are good enough. And therefore, if he doesn't approve of any of these options, he will take her. And I'm like, okay, that is the most passive aggressive thing I've ever heard in my life from a 16-year-old boy.
Well, I mean, what do you expect?
I don't.
It is what it is. And so
I don't know about you, but I did not go to I didn't go to my junior prom.
Well, I didn't go to any proms, so
I had recently broken up with my very first boyfriend, and so my junior year, I was not dating anybody, and I actually had like pneumonia. I was really, really sick, However, I had gone to junior prom as a sophomore. I went with my boyfriend to his junior prom. So I don't feel like I completely missed out on the experience. But when my junior prom came around, some of my friends were like, no, you have to go to junior prom. I mean, you have to go. It's junior prom and you're a junior. You have to do this. And I said, all right, fine. So there was a guy. He was a sophomore, but he was an older sophomore, so he was like the same age as us. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, I'll go to junior prom. That'll be great. So I agreed to go to junior prom with him. And now we can laugh about it now because he's happily married. He's everything's wonderful. He tried to kill himself like 2 days before junior prom.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So the joke, of course, was he would rather die than take you to junior prom.
Why was he just that troubled?
Obviously. But what was the reason that I could talk about it, we can laugh about it now, is that his parents, who were obviously devastated, he was hospitalized. And so his parents and this boy were like, please come to the hospital so I can apologize to you. And so I went to the hospital. His parents, his mother specifically, I remember her being just one of the sweetest people ever. I was there with some other friends to visit him in the hospital, and he could not apologize enough. And I said, oh my God, please stop it. Look where you are. It's fine. Look at me. I am totally cool. I was so sad that he was there. And, as a 16, 17-year-old, you don't really get how serious that is, especially back in the 80s.
Yeah,
back then that just did not happen as
well, that
often.
was before mental health was, even a thing.
Exactly. And even then, in the hospital, we even joked about it. He's like, well, I know how this looks. Like, I'd rather die than take you to prom, but I really wanted to take you. It was really, we laughed about it. I mean, and right. So now when I tell Malia, I'm like, listen, Malia, anything's better than what I went through my junior year for prom. Okay. I did not go to my junior prom. I was on the decorating committee, basically. I decorated the gym and then went home. I did not stay for junior prom. And of course, everybody's like, oh, you should go anyway. Back in the 80s, you didn't go to junior prom without a date. That did not happen. You just did not do that.
Well, that's what I was going to say is if she has a couple friends that don't get dates and she doesn't have a date, I mean, can they go together, or is that just like, no, you don't do that?
They begrudgingly have agreed that they would do it. But like I said, I go, Malia, you've got a ridiculously beautiful dress. You're getting your hair done by a hairstylist. You're going to look amazing. You're going to have a great time. It's, a boy or not, it's okay. And she's like, yeah, that's true. But I really don't want to go without a date. And I'm like, all right, great. I wish I knew more people who had boys at 16 years old, but I don't, unfortunately. So, because everybody started having children late in life. So all their boys are 10. They don't have 15 to 16-year-old boys. So I can't even find one to take her. So
I'll have Ryan take her.
Oh my God, no.
He's tall enough.
Actually, it's really funny. Speaking of the 80s, I remember my best friend in high school, her sister was a senior when we were freshmen, and she didn't get a date for senior ball. And I remember she came home, it was 2 days before senior ball, and she had a dress and everything. And she came home from school, slammed the door shut, and was wailing, sobbing, heartbreaking sobs. And her mom and her sisters all went running in there. And she's like, I don't have a date. Everybody hates me. I'm ugly. just that whole thing that girls put themselves through. Mm-hmm. And she ended up going with her brother-in-law's brother. Because they're like, you're going to senior ball, God damn it. And so somebody came in and she got to go. But how common do you think that is? I think it's more common than not, to be honest
I think it's pretty common. I mean, I've known people who've gone with their dad or with with their own brother or, just different things. Because it's just... I don't know. It's different things. Like Victor, because they're basically Irish triplets, that they all went to dances together. They did everything together because they all were within 10 months of apart. And so they never really felt alone. I mean, yes, they usually had dates. They always had dates. But even if their dates were like, you know, wandering off or something like that, no one was left sitting alone or something like that because they were always just right there with their brother or sister.
I don't know if the pressure is there for them anymore, but like our age, the pressure of going to prom was so high. It was like a requirement. It's like, you will graduate, you will go to prom, and you better get a date. That was the pressure that we put on ourselves. I don't know if it's like that anymore. I think it kind of is, though, based on the way these ladies are behaving. Oh my God, Paula, I went dress shopping 3 or 4 times with these girls, and the thing is, they're so beautiful. They can literally wear a rag and they're stunning. Right. So it's really hard for me to go, oh, I don't like this, I look fat in this. I'm like, shut up, you are not, you're a size 5. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
This just drives me so crazy. Even the girl of the group who thinks she's chubby, she wears a 5. And she's the biggest of them all. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I know you're not going to listen to me, but 20 years from now, after you've had some children, you're going to wish that you were wearing this dress. That there wasn't any kind of pooch and that you didn't have back fat, because it happens. I'm just saying.
Right.
You won't be able to wear this strappy little velvet number that's unlined, by the way, and not have everything kind of jiggling after you've had a couple kids.
Your weight will actually be in triple digits.
Yes. I'm 100 pounds and I'm the biggest girl. It's like, yes, you are. Okay. Poor child. But my hope is that this all works out, you know. And of course, Daryl, he is completely he's not even paying attention. He's not even, he just tell me what to order, tell me what to rent, and I will get it. And just tell me how big the limo needs to be, you know.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm like, all right. So Malia and I are the ones stressing about it every day, but, you know, not literally daily, but, you know.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a thing.
Well, you know, when you have this really great dress, you want a boy to like it. You want to, I mean, at that age, you just want to be, I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it, but
no,
I do
get
understand.
it. You want to have that moment or that, you know.
Yeah, I do.
Where she comes down the stairs and...
There she goes. Yeah. You know, I want that for her.
Venus.
Yes, Venus, if you will. Exactly. Venus, if you will. 3 send a little girl for me to thrill.
And the dad's sitting there like, no, this can't be happening.
Just like a movie. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of, we have some great H-Uglee and Awkward Moments this week. We had a submission that I want to share with you, but before I want to segue into them because they both are related to awkward moments with exes or first dates.
Oh.
And I have a handful of times where I've had awkward moments or just uncomfortable moments with that. You and I have talked regularly about how we'll run into people that we might have had sex with at some point and we can't remember their names or we can't recall. Well, that's happened. It's happened to me a couple of times. I know that I have told you about this story, but I'm going to recap it briefly. When I broke up with my son's father, a lot of his creepy friends said, oh, she's single. And then they would call, want to go out or whatever. And I mean, that's shitty, right? I mean, I think that's shitty.
Yeah, that's horrible. You know, you're not supposed to touch whatever your friend's
forever.
Ex.
Like forever.
Yeah.
And I remember this one friend of his called and said, yeah, I know you guys aren't working out, but, you know, I've always thought about you, blah, blah, blah. And he wanted to either come over or go out later. And so because I was literally the relationship body wasn't even cold. And so I called my ex and said, this person just reached out to me and that is just so tacky. Because what is he thinking? So my ex actually went over there in the middle of the night, broke down his door and beat him up. Or at least attempted to. And they're still friends. Can you imagine? They're still friends to this day. I'm like, well, guys can get over anything, apparently.
They can. Guys are weird.
They are. I don't, well, you fight it out, and apparently that, what's done is done.
You can tell your man something. Well, maybe not your man, but I can tell Victor something about something that happened. There was one thing that happened one time with one of his friends. And his friend got to him before I did.
Oh.
And so he totally put a spin on the story.
Of course.
And so when I finally got to him to say, like, I need to tell you something, and I told him what it was, he already had in his mind how it went down.
Oh, asshole.
And I'm just like, you asshole. And to this day, I hate him.
Good.
But the thing is that Victor, like, can never see it my way, because he just somehow thinks that...
Because his first impression of the story is that spin.
And
there's nothing you can say.
And so they're friends till this day.
Oh, God.
Everything's fine. And I'm just like, how can you even stomach being his friend? Like, I don't get it. And so, like, there's been times where, they go and hang out and he's like, well, I know you don't like him. I'm like, I hate him. I don't dislike him.
It's not just a disdain. It is an utter guttural hate.
And I still don't understand how you can just, go and, have a couple beers and be like, hey, what's up? How's the fam?
How can you look at someone who did that and never not be always thinking about it? Because that would be me. That is me, in fact. There is someone that a family member associates with. And to this day, and they said horrible things about me and Daryl. And to this day, I can't even fathom how they associate with this person. It's like, how can you not be thinking about it every moment that you're looking at them? It just drives me up the wall. It's like, what is going on? I could never resolve it if that was me. Ever. I'd be like, I can't do this anymore. It's driving me crazy. Like, I just couldn't. I don't get it. Like, how does Victor go out with this guy and not have that at the back of his mind every single second he's looking at that ugly face? Like, I don't get it.
Because he doesn't think it that way. That's the problem.
So weird. Well, women are just far more spiteful and angry about things like that, about betrayal.
It's infuriating.
It is infuriating. But speaking of bad dates, I went on one really bad date. So I had broken up my long-term boyfriend, who ultimately ended up being my son's father. This was before my son was created. So it was like way early. I was like 20. And this guy who was a friend of his, but kind of like a secondary friend, like he knew him, but they didn't really hang out that much. He asked me out. He was cute. He was going into the police academy, and I was like, yeah, why not? I mean, I'm like, I got to get out there. It's been like a month or so. And, when you're that young, you want to bounce back kind of quickly. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go out with you. Well, I knew nothing about him other than his name and the very minimal stuff that I knew about him. And he asked me to pick him up because he said his parents needed his car or something. And he lived in a pretty affluent area in Roseville, which is a suburb in Sacramento, kind of closer to Auburn, Tahoe-ish area. So I went and picked him up. He lived with his parents because, back then, I mean, we were only 20. It wasn't like, I expected him to be on his own. His parents' home was a mansion. And I was like, oh, wow, I feel kind of intimidated because I was in my little black Toyota pickup truck. I felt a little uncomfortable because, we don't come from a lot of money. And so knocked on the ding dong,
Yeah.
The mother answers the door. Hello, you must be Jamie. And I'm like, hi, nice to meet you. Whole family's in the front room. His sister, this baby, everybody. And he's in the back room finishing getting ready. So I walk into a family of people.
Great.
They start asking me questions. How do I know? What do I do for a living? I'm like, well, I work at a pizza place. It's like really uncomfortable. The baby was his.
Oh my God.
And the baby was probably 8 months old. And the mother, now I know what she was doing. This had nothing to do with me. I could have been anybody. Well, this is his daughter, Kimberly, or whatever the baby's name was. I'm like, oh my God. Now, we aren't trash. I know how to behave around people.
Right.
So I'm like, wow, well, that is a cute baby. Wow, you're a grandmother. That must be so exciting. She goes, yes, she's our first granddaughter. We just adore her. She lives with us, and the mother lives with us too. She's not here tonight. She's working. And I'm like, what the fuck am I getting? What is happening? I felt like I had walked into some kind of intervention. So the guy comes out, and I'm like, your baby is so cute. He's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, you live with your girlfriend and we're going on a date? And the mother was like, ha, ha. You know, like, this is what you get, son, for bringing this trollop into our home. And so we leave because he wants to leave. And there was some heated discussion, not with me, but with his mother. Mm-hmm. And so we leave. And I mean, really, if I had been a more experienced woman, I would have left without him. Like, I would have walked out the door and said, I don't think this is going to work. Really great to see you. Congratulations on the baby. I'm out. Like, that's what I really would have done nowadays if I had known what I knew then. So we get in the car. He's like, yeah, let's go see a movie. I'm like, okay, great. So we get in the car. We're in his parents' car. I left my car there. And we go to, back in the day, there was a place called the Birdcage Theaters.
Yeah.
They were dollar movies.
Yes.
And so that's where we went. He's like, we're going to go to the dollar theater because there was a cop movie that he wanted to see there. And I'm like, all right, well, you know what? That's fine. Now, understand, I just left a mansion filled with, you know, beautiful things. And now we're going to the dollar movies. And he wouldn't buy me popcorn because it was $3 or something or a soda. And so we sat in the theater with nothing, watching this cop movie that he had seen like 5 times. And afterwards, we were done. And that was the end of the date. And then he drove me back to my car, and that was the end of it. It was one of the worst dates I've ever been on in my life. Ever.
Oh my God, that sounds horrible.
Not even a kiss goodnight. Have no idea what he tasted like. No lips, no nothing. Not even a hug. I think he was like, looking back now, I think he was like, I'm going through with this date because out of spite. Like, it's happening. We're doing this. And so he put in minimal effort, and I was basically a pawn in this crazy rich family's life. He was proving something to someone. He ultimately married that girl.
Oh.
Yeah, he ultimately married her. And he did he did end up being a police officer. So, you know, congratulations. I hope whatever I was a part of worked for you. But yeah, that was literally the worst date, I think, in my lifetime. The worst date I've been on. Oh, except for the one where the guy lied to me saying he wasn't married, and he was married. And I met him up at Squaw Valley. You actually watched my child for me. Mm-hmm. And he was coked out. And when I knocked on the door, there was another family there that he went doing a ski trip with. And they were like super close family friends. I mean, their kids were there and everything. And I walked in going, yeah, I'm here for, I can't remember his name now, Larry. I'm here for Larry. They're like, oh my God. And literally, I was like, what's going on? They're like, he's married. Oh God, it was the worst. It was the worst. God. Yeah, just really bad. I mean, I can't imagine that others have not had dates like that or instances of that nature, but it was not comfortable. And I told the girl, I'm like, I didn't know he was married. I promise you. I'm so sorry. I'm not that person, even though maybe I was.
Gosh. Well, the funny thing about that one is very similar to the one that I dated is you dated him for quite a while.
The married guy?
Yeah.
No, he wouldn't leave me alone. When I found out he was married, that was it.
Oh, I thought you had dated him a few times or quite a few times.
No, a few times because I did not know he was married. And then when I found out he was married, he actually got kicked out of that cabin. Mm-hmm. And he begged me to take him home because he had no ride home. So I don't know why I did this, but I did it. And I drove him home to his house or wherever he was staying because he was still living with his wife. And I drove him to the house. He cried the whole way home.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. He cried the whole way home because I think he was going to, obviously his wife was going to find out. And I dropped him off and he tried to booty call me like 2 or 3 times after that. And I just hung up on him. But yeah, that was the end of that. I actually do have some standards.
I just don't understand how people can like flat out deceive someone. It's one thing if you're willing to cheat with another person.
Yeah, if it's consensual cheating.
You know, yeah. You know, if it's an affair, but it's quite another to just outright deceive someone for any length of time.
Yeah.
And that's the part that just gets me. But I mean, if you're naive.
Yeah, I was.
As am I.
Yeah.
Then you'll fall like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. Do you have any bad dates?
Well, one of the first dates I went on after Victor and I broke up was... God, this was such a mistake. There was this cowboy at this bar we went to, and it was really dark, and he had his hat tipped really low.
So he looked super cute.
He did. Plus, I was drunk, and so
well, everybody looks cute when you're drunk.
We exchanged numbers, and then we left. And I said to my sister-in-law at the time, I was just like, I'm really, really drunk. I'm like, you have to be my eyes. I'm like, is he cute? And she's like, Paula, she's like, I'm just as equally as drunk as you are. She's like, I can't tell. She's like, I think he looks cute though. I'm not positive. So I'm like, all right. I'm like, I think he, you know, he does too. I'm like, between the two of us, we can figure this out. And so we texted for a while. Then he eventually asked me out. He asked me out and he says, okay, I'll pick you up Friday at 5:00. And I'm just like, well, I work. And so I can't, you know, be picked up that early. I'm like, you know, how about like 6:30 or something?
Yeah.
And so he picked me up at 6:30. I answered the door. He had his hat on. And he took his hat off. His head looked like one of those babies that has encephalitis. No. And I was just like, oh my God. And so I was just like, okay, this date can end early.
Yeah, this is not.
He drove me all the way out to Roseville.
Which is like a 40-minute drive, right?
It's a 40-minute drive. And so he took me to this place for dinner. And then we went to another place to like see a little like band play.
Yeah.
And then I kept saying, well, it's getting kind of late. I'm like, I should probably get back. And he's like, well, I don't want to go home yet. So it's like he literally was like kidnapping me.
Oh my God.
So I couldn't get back and I didn't have a car.
You're like, I will get a cab if I have to.
And this was before the time of Uber.
Right.
Otherwise, I would have just Ubered myself back. I would have called one in the bathroom and
right.
You know, just gone out. And so finally, it was like 11:00, and he finally, you know, drove me back home. He tried to kiss me, and I'm just like, no.
I can see your little sourpuss face at all these tables, just looking like a little wet rag.
You know, and he kept trying to put his arm around me and all this stuff. And I'm just like, this is not happening. I know you're trying to make this happen, but it's not.
This is so not happening.
Like, I'm only here because I have no way to get out of here.
You're like a trapped animal.
Basically.
You look like one of the, if somebody had photographed you, you would have looked like one of those lost dogs that came into the pound and hates their life and just sitting with their tail between their legs and their ears down, looking pitifully at the camera like, get me out of here. Come on.
So he told me he worked for the police department.
Lie.
And come to find out, he had worked in the records department at the police department.
Oh, okay.
But he got fired, and he was unemployed at the time.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, this is not working out at all. Like, no.
Wow.
I want nothing to do with you or your faraway dates. And
man, maybe he knew my bad date if they both worked for the same police department.
I'm like, no, this is not happening. And I said, you need to get your life together and
don't call me
and not date me or anyone. Or
save all the women in the area. Don't date that guy. Was that the guy that had cheeks that looked like butts?
Yes.
Yes, he had like glutes for cheeks.
Yes, he had these giant, like, you know, it's like slicing a cantaloupe in half and then putting it on his face.
There's something wrong with that person.
God, maybe he did have encephalitis.
Oh my God, maybe, or mumps. God forbid. Glad you didn't come out with an illness. Glad your mother vaccinated you.
God, that was just the worst. The worst.
Yeah, well, that one's pretty bad too. Man. Okay, so speaking of, and we're running out of time, so I'm going to do this quickly, but we did get a submission for H-Uglee and Awkward Moments this week. So let's go through them. This one is from our H-Uglee listener, Cindy. This happened. She's not dating right now. She's focusing on herself, which I think is an awesome thing. But she said this was from last year when she was dating. Now, and she loves to tell it, so she's telling us. She was on the dating sites and she matched with a guy. They moved to Facebook. And that's interesting. I never even thought of that plan, is if you meet someone on a dating site and then you like them enough that you give them your Facebook, you friend them on Facebook.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
It's a really, if you think about it, in this day and age, it's a really good way to kind of get to know someone. You can see what kind of friends they have, if they're, everything from Facebook. You can find out so much from someone on Facebook. Not that I stalk people.
I don't think I would want to do that. I think that's too personal. I think I would just rather pick up the phone and be like, how's it going?
Yeah, but it is a good, but if they really hit it off and you've already hit it off on a dating site, then it would make sense that ultimately you would go to the next level of social media anyway and let them see your Facebook page. So anyway, she said it had gotten to occasional chatting, but we hadn't made the move to meet yet. One Saturday morning, he chats and asks what I was up to that day. And I said, I'm playing kickball at the Tiffin Fun Days. This is in Iowa, I believe. So he goes, well, as strange as that sounds, he's like, I was just asked to referee that tournament. So he was going to be there being a ref for this kickball tournament.
No way.
She's like, yeah. She goes, well, I guess we're going to meet today. So it was an 80s themed event. And I know Cindy, we're friends on Facebook. She went all out.
Oh, yeah, I know her.
She goes, Cindy. I was the only person on my team. I wore neon. I crimped my hair. Like, she went all out on the 80s. I could totally see her doing this, by the way. And she's like, so we get to the fields, and of course, she's the only one that did it. So she was all by herself. I know, that sucks, but she probably looked amazing. So we get to the fields to play our first game. The first umpire in her first tournament game was her ex-husband.
Oh, no.
The second game was the potential date guy. So it was like all worlds collided at the kickball tournament. She's like, super fun, had by all.
God.
So I'm like, I wanted to ask so much more. I wanted to know more. Like, did the ex and the potential, did it work out? Obviously, they're not dating. So, but like, what happened? I wanted to know everything. Like, did you guys have cocktails afterwards? What happened? But I didn't get any of that info because I can only imagine. First of all, I can't even fathom having a potential suitor reffing me, running around, kicking things. Like, that in itself, by the way, would be incredibly awkward. I never was good at kickball.
No.
And so, I was the one where they would have me pitch it. I would be the pitcher for the ball because I can't run, nor can I tag anyone. So I remember one time doing kickball in like 6th grade, and I would pitch the ball, and the person would kick it directly to me, and I would get punched in the stomach with a red kickball. Like, that happened a lot.
Ow.
But can you imagine going, and not only are you completely decked out in the theme, now you have a guy that you might want to sleep with one day reffing you as you kick it and run.
Okay.
Run.
So I have a similar story. So basically what happened is when Ryan was in T-ball, Victor and I were split up.
Yes.
And it was new. It was very new.
Yes.
He would come to the games and the practices, Victor would, and I would be there as well. And the T-ball coach, who I thought was adorable, I don't know how we got on the subject, but he started texting me. And so I started texting him back, and then he just started saying like really naughty things.
And you're like, hello.
But then he started saying like really naughty, mean things.
Oh, like calling you a whore?
Stuff like that.
Oh.
And so then what happened is I would say about 2 to 3 times a week, he would call me and he wouldn't say anything. And he would start off saying, like, you know, dirty things in English. And I said, no, I said, I want it in Spanish.
Oh.
And so, because he spoke Spanish.
Yes.
So we would have phone sex, like I said, 2 or 3 times a week. And he would call me just filthy, disgusting names in Spanish.
You're like, more.
So, but then we'd have to go to T-ball and just pretend like everything was normal.
I can't believe you never like fucked him. I would have been like, next.
No, he wasn't. That's not what he was about.
He did not want to do that.
No, because he had a very steady girlfriend.
You know,
but she
commitment.
worked out of town Monday through Friday.
I see. So, well, he was a committed man. I see.
Yes, he
God,
was.
how honorable. That is fun. How did it end? Did it just end, or?
Yeah, when T-ball ended, I guess.
Oh, so he picks one single mom and has his fun.
Yeah, I guess. I don't really know what happened, but
It just
that
stopped.
was just the end of it. But
that's actually kind of hot, actually.
It was.
I'd be all in on that.
Hot. So,
yeah.
But it was weird to be there, like, with my ex, and then to be there
knowing
with,
what you
like,
knew.
my phone sex texting person.
Yes.
And, like, you know, try and pretend like, you know, everything's just normal, like we're just there for T-ball.
So. They're like, nothing going on here. Okay, really quick before we wrap it up, I found these on I found this one. It was about bad first dates, and this is just a one-liner, and I laughed so hard because I can't even imagine what I would do if a guy said this to me. So this girl said, I was on a first date. The guy informed me that I shouldn't have worn heels for him because I was walking like a dog that someone had put socks on.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? I'd be like, what? I'd be like, bye. I mean, first of all, I laughed when I read that. But if somebody said that to me, I would be offended beyond, and I would have kicked him with my heel and left.
That's
personally.
what I would have done.
Yeah, I would have been like, well, fuck you. Like, no more doobie heels for you, asshole.
Would have peed on his leg.
Really? I'm like, rough dick.
Yeah, basically.
Dog with socks.
That's terrible.
Anyway, well, thank you for the submission. God, it's like upper echelon awkward because you've had all these worlds collide and you handled it with grace. So it wasn't as awkward as I would have made it personally, but I can only imagine. I can't even imagine, actually. It would have been really awkward. So I'm going to give it 10,000 points.
I agree. It's a 10,000 pointer for sure.
For sure.
For sure.
Submit your awkward moments, guys. We love them.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming. The H-Uglee and Awkward Moments.
Yes.
So, okay, well, that's a wrap, everybody, for this Wednesday. We'll be back next Sunday with another episode and more fun to talk about. Please continue to shop our Avon and Amazon links. We enjoyed the patronage. Other than that, have a good rest of your week, and we will talk to you soon. Bye. Bye.
Thanks for listening and sharing the show. See you next time on The Ugly Truth.